Now we start with a new chapter, friction. Uh, if we take something like a floor and a block is placed on it, we try to push the block with a force. It moves some distance and then stops. So when we apply the force, the body moves with a velocity, and slowly the body deaccelerates and stops. So V becomes 0. According to Newton's first law of motion, after being pushed, the book should have continued along with the uniform velocity in the absence of any external force. That means if the body has stopped, an external force has acted on the body to resist its motion. Now this fact that the book stops, it clearly indicates or clearly shows the existence of some external force which affects the motion of the body. Affects the motion of the body means to stop the body. This force is called the force of friction, simply friction or dry friction. I am using the term dry friction because later in the chapter we will be discussing something about wet friction. This is known as dry friction. Also, if the book is pushed slightly, it often does not move at all. If the force on the book is gradually increased, it begins to move after a while. So initially, the frictional force can balance the applied force. That means we are talking about a force which is always resisting the motion of the body. Two things we have to keep in mind. One is that it is acting always along the tangential direction of at the point of contact. That means frictional force always acts along the tangential direction at point of contact. And secondly, as you all know it acts in the opposite direction to the relative motion. Acts in opposite direction to relative motion. Now, intentionally we have used the word relative motion because this block is moving on the ground. That means with respect to the ground, the block is in motion, which you always which you can call it as relative motion. Also, if two bodies are moving one over the other, now suppose like this, one block above the other, if you pull this block with a force, the tendency of this block on top, suppose this is block A, this is block B, tendency of this block will be to move in the opposite direction. But if there is frictional force between these two surfaces A and B, the frictional force will keep the body or the block B at rest. This kind of frictional force acts between the two bodies. Here another frictional force can act in this region also. One frictional force here, one frictional force here. Now if we pull this with a force F, something called a pseudo force will act on this body in the backward direction. Now if that pseudo force is more than the frictional force, the body will move backwards. But if that pseudo force is not able to overcome the frictional force, these two bodies will move together in the forward direction. We will be discussing about these types of problems or two body problem in a single video. Now, which force is actually responsible for friction? In a single word answer, we can call it the adhesive force. Now, how does this adhesive force gives rise to a force named friction? if we take two surfaces, one block and one flow, and study this contact surfaces, study the two contact surfaces under a microscope, we will find that the surfaces of contact are not smooth as we can look with a naked eye. The surfaces of contact between the two bodies will be like this when you look through a microscope. They are inundations. Now this point and this point, they will move close to each other as time passes on. They will move very close to each other. Now, why do these two things move towards each other? There is a force called adhesive force which is acting between the two surfaces. Now, what is adhesive force? It is a force of attraction between two bodies, force of attraction between two different molecules. And the adhesive force varies from the bodies in contact, the change of the bodies in contact. If this body is body number 1 and body number 2, if we take body number 3 and body number 4, the force of adhesion acting between these two surfaces will be different from that, this 1 and 2. So this adhesive force is completely responsible for the frictional force. Now to start the two bodies, to move this body, we have to first break these interlockings. Now to break this interlocking means here bonds are broken and new bonds are formed. When one body is pulled over the other, these bonds are broken and the material gets deformed and new bonds are formed. Now these local deformations sends vibrations into the bodies. These vibrations ultimately damp out. These vibrations ultimately damp out and the energy of the vibrations appears as heat. So after the breaking of these bonds or the deformation formed, the energy that is released is in the form of heat. Hence, to start or to carry out or carry on the motion, there is a need of a force. Now, the most funny thing about the frictional force is that it is a self-adjusting force. Most important thing, what is frictional force? A self-adjusting force. This is a vital criteria of frictional force which you have to understand very well at first. Suppose the maximum frictional force that can act between the two bodies in consideration are 100 newtons. Maximum frictional force equal to 100 newtons between two bodies in contact. Now suppose this is a force with which the block is pulled. P is the force which is external force, and the frictional force acting on the body in the backward direction is small f. This is the frictional force. Now to move the body, one must apply a force P which must be larger than the frictional force, P greater than F. But if we say that applied force P, the frictional force F, what is the resultant force? Now if we don't apply any force, the frictional force is also zero. That means the body is at rest. The body is at rest, there is no external force acting on the body, hence the frictional force is also zero. But if you slowly start to increase the value of P, that means 5, 10, 15, 20 and so on, the frictional force also can adjust itself. While applying a force of 5 newtons, the frictional force will also be 5 newtons. That means 5 newton frictional force acts to oppose the motion. Slowly, as we go on increasing the applied force, the frictional force also gets increased till a value, suppose 100. 100 was the maximum amount of frictional force between the two bodies. The frictional force will also adjust itself to 100. Now this is the value of limiting friction. This is the value of limiting friction. Now what happens at limiting friction? Now this part, when the body was at rest, this part, the body is also at rest because the frictional force is not surrendering itself. That means this part is known as static friction. This part is known as static friction. That means why static? Because the body continues to be in a state of rest. Now when the applied force reaches 100, the frictional force is also 100. This is the limiting value of frictional force. So what happens at the limiting friction? The body has a tendency to move, but it is not moving. That means it is on the verge of moving. On the verge of moving. But it has not started its motion. Now if we apply a little bit larger force, suppose 100.5, the frictional force gets to 80. Because when 100.5 is applied, it can balance, the frictional force can balance 100 units, but not this extra 0.5. This 0.5 will help the body to move forward. But very important thing here, that is the frictional force here will get reduced to, suppose a value 80. This is the value of sliding friction. Now as we go on increasing this value, suppose 150, 200, this will remain constant. This will never change. The sliding value will never change. So we can divide friction into two categories. One is called static friction, and that is kinetic friction. Further, kinetic friction divided into two parts: sliding friction and rolling friction. If we try to draw the graph of the applied force and the force of friction, if we keep applied force in the x-axis and the frictional force on the y-axis, this will be somewhat like this. Now till this part, this is one part. Now this angle will always be 45. The frictional force, as the applied force is increased, the frictional force also gets increased. So we get a straight line with an angle of 45. That means applied force is proportional to the frictional force, or rather the frictional force is proportional to the applied force. Now as we reach the peak or the limiting value, slowly the frictional force gets decreased and has a constant value when the body is sliding. Now if we try to understand on which factors frictional force depends upon, this is a force P with which the block is pulled. Now the weight of the body, or mg, or rather W is equal to mg, the weight of the body acts downwards. The reaction force, according to Newton's third law, we can name it as R or N in some books, and the frictional force acts in the opposite direction. Now from the previous diagram we have understood why P proportional to F. That means the applied force proportional to the frictional force. Now frictional force is proportional to R. That means this is a statement which is the most important statement of this chapter, that is the frictional force is proportional to the normal reaction force. Now if we put a equal to sign, that must be a constant mu r. Now this mu, when it is at rest, when the body is at rest, we call this mu as static friction. If the body is at rest, then this is the static friction value, mu s r. Now if the body is not at rest, if the body is sliding, we can name this as kinetic friction. Between these two values lies the value of limiting friction, that is the maximum frictional force that acts between the two bodies. So the name of this constant mu s is known as the coefficient of static friction, and mu k is the coefficient of kinetic friction. Now if we try to write down some points about static friction, that is, it acts against the force that attempts to cause relative motion. That means it always acts in the opposite direction. Point number 2, directly proportional to the normal reaction. As we have already stated here, frictional force is directly proportional to the normal reaction. Third point is independent of the area of contact. Now this point number 3 is very, very important. It is independent of the area of contact. Independent. It does not depend on the area of contact. Instead, it depends on the normal reaction. Now, for kinetic friction, or rather the sliding part, it depends on the materials of the surfaces in contact, independent of the area of contact. So the similarity between these two things is it is also independent of the area of contact, almost independent of velocity. Almost independent. Why almost? Because provided the velocity is not too large, not too small. If the velocity is too large or too small, there will be a factor which will change the value of friction. So the sliding part, or rather the value of the frictional force during sliding, will almost remain independent of velocity. Now during kinetic friction, if we take a body, we pull it with a force P, the frictional force that is acting on the body, that is the kinetic frictional part, Fk, we have already stated it as mu k r. R is a reaction force, W is the weight, or is equal to mg acting downwards. Now if the body moves, that means the body is moving here. That means P is greater than the frictional force. So there will be a resultant force acting on the body in the forward direction, as P is greater than Fk. So P minus Fk is the resultant force which results in an acceleration of the body. We call it as ma. Here we can write A is equal to P minus Fk by m. We replace Fk as mu k r by m. This is the acceleration with which the body will move. Now we take an example. An iron block of mass 10 kg is kept on the horizontal flow. The block is pulled by a rope. In the horizontal flow, the block is pulled by a rope at an angle of 30 with the flow. Angle of 30 degree with the flow. What should be the minimum force necessary to set the body in motion? That means the body is just about to move. The body has not moved. The body is just starting to move. That means if we call this as the force as T, this will be T cos theta, cos 30, and this will be T sin 30. The weight of the body W acts downwards, and the normal reaction R acting upwards. If you pull this body with a force, then the frictional force will also be acting on the body, that is F is equal to mu R. Now the value of mu is given as 0.5. Just we have to write two equations, one along the horizontal direction. So horizontal equation will be T cos theta must be equated with mu R, because the body has the body is just about to start its motion. It has not started. So T cos 30 minus mu R must be equal to 0. Also the forces along the vertical direction, that means T sin theta sin 30 plus R is equal to W. Now from this we have to solve out the value of T. Now we have to find out the value of R from here and replace the value of R in the first equation. So R is equal to W minus T sin 30. Sin 30 is half. So W minus T by 2. Replace the value of R in the first equation in 1. So this is equation number 1, equation number 2. So replace the value of R in 1. T cos 30 is root 3 by 2 mu R. What is R? W minus T by 2 is equal to 0. So T into root 3 by 2 is equal to mu into W minus T by 2. Now in this equation we replace the value of mu and replace the value of W. What is mu? Mu was given as 0.5 and the mass was given as 10 kg. So mu was 0.5. Okay, mu was 0.5. W was mg. Mg means a value of 10 into 10, 100. 10 into 10 means 100 minus 3 by 2. T into root 3 by 2. By solving this, we get T is equal to 43.9 newtons.